Section C, decision analysis. That's the next agenda. Decision analysis, 25% of your syllabus. I would say the bulkiest and the most difficult one in your entire CMA Part 2. There's so many things: CVP analysis, pricing, marginal analysis, product mix, so on and so forth. So we will be studying CVP analysis, margin analysis, pricing, and these are components within these subsections. Let's start straight away. There are a total of 99 MCQs, and we think we will be able to do in a couple or maybe 3 lectures at max. Starting first with the most difficult question. The first one is the difficult one. Let's see. Garner's Products is considering a new accounts payable and cash disbursement process, which is projected to add 3 days to the disbursement schedule without having significant negative effect on suppliers' relationship. We can delay payment to our suppliers by 3 days, and this delay would not affect our relationship with the suppliers. And delaying the payment is good. When you need to collect as quickly as possible. And when you need to pay, you should pay as late as possible without damaging your relationship with your vendors. That's the golden principle of cash management, working capital management, right? So we can delay the payment to our vendors by 3 days. Daily cash outflows averages 1.5 million. If we can delay the payment to 3 days, it means cash for the first day 1.5, cash outflow for the second day 1.5, and cash outflow for the third day. It means if our disbursement is delayed by 3 days, we will have an average balance 3 times of 1.5 million. Increase in days in float is 3. Average daily payment is 1.5. Since 3 days cash is being withheld, your average cash balance goes up by 4.5 million. That was a key point to learn. Average increase in balance is 4.5 million. Okay. Garner is in a short-term borrowing position for 8 months of the year and in an investment position for 4 months. Out of the 12 months in a year, we have shortage for the 8 months and we have surplus cash at in 4 months out of those 12. Okay. On an annual basis, bank lending rates are expected to be 7% for the first 8 months of borrowing, and marketable securities yields are expected to be 4%. This is interesting. Since we have delayed our payment by 3 days, our average cash balance goes up by 4.5 million on a yearly basis. Out of 12 months in a year, we are short of cash in the first 8 months, and the borrowing used to be at 7% per month, or 7% per year borrowing rate. And out of those 12, in 4 months, we have surplus cash, and we could invest at this 4% investment. What is the maximum annual expense that Garner could incur for this new process to break even? Since bank has given this system where we can delay our payment by 3 days, bank will definitely ask for certain price for its service. First, let us see what is its benefit. If we delay our payment to 3 days, what will be its annual benefit to us? Our average cash balance has gone up by 4.5 million. Since we have surplus cash, for the first 8 months, we have effectively saved this much interest. Because we have surplus cash of 4.5 million on an annual basis, this much money which we used to borrow from the bank at 7% for 8 months out of 12 means we have saved $210,000 worth of interest. You save interest expense, right? At 7%, we have saved this much interest which we used to pay in the prior years. And in the remaining 4 months, when we have surplus cash, this extra amount of cash would help you put it in the 4% deposit account or in a marketable security, will get you an extra cash of 60. So this is the interest you have saved. You don't have to pay this much. And this is the interest you can earn. So overall saving is the interest saved and interest earned combined is 270. This is the net annual benefit of this new scheme of delaying the payment to our vendors. If the banker is offering us this process or this system, what is the maximum amount we will be willing to pay to break even? We won't pay more than 270 because the benefit of this system is 270. If we want to break even, this is the maximum amount I am willing to pay to break even. So the cost you are willing to pay for this service to break even, no profit, no loss, is 270. So that makes C to be the correct option. And C it is, right? Next, Bolger and Company manufactures large gaskets for the turbine industry. Bolger's per unit sales price, variable cost for the current year are as follows. Selling price is $300. Variable cost per unit is $210. That means contribution is $90. Bolger's total fixed cost aggregate $360. As Bolger's labor agreement is expiring at the end of the year, management is concerned about the effects a new agreement will have on its unit break-even point. Let us write down the data so we can do the computations. The existing circumstances is that your unit contribution margin is 300 less 210, 90. Your current fixed cost is 360. Thereby, your current break-even quantity, which you can easily calculate by dividing your fixed cost with your contribution margin, it gives you 360 by 90,000. It's 4,000 units. It's your current break-even quantity. The controller performed a sensitivity analysis by changing the variables to ascertain the estimated effect of a $10 per unit labor increase and a $10,000 reduction in fixed cost. Based upon this data, it was determined that the break-even point would be increasing or decreasing. Let's take in the new numbers. Your unit contribution margin, because of increase in labor cost by $10, it will fall to 80. Right? It further says that the fixed cost will fall by $10,000, mean your fixed cost would be 350 now. Your fixed cost will be 350. What is the new break-even quantity? Break-even quantity would be 350,000 divided by 80. It's 4,375, which means the new sensitivity analysis tells us that the break-even quantity would go up by 375 units. That is C, and C it is. Philips and Company produces educational software. Its unit cost structure based upon anticipated production volume of 150,000 units is as follows. Selling price 160, variable cost 60. That tells me that the unit contribution margin is $100. Fixed cost is $55 at this level of output. Is fixed cost per unit. Ideally, fixed cost must be expressed in total. Per unit can confuse you. So 55 multiplied by 150. Your fixed cost is basically 8.25 million. This is your fixed cost. Right? Now there are certain changes. The marketing department has estimated sales for the upcoming year to be these many units, which is within the relevant range of Philips cost structure. Within the relevant range in cost management means a range of your productive capacity within which your variable cost per unit stays the same and your fixed cost in total stays the same, which means the variable cost per unit and fixed cost in total, they will stay the same. Philips break-even volume and anticipated operating income for the coming year would be: break-even quantity can be calculated by dividing the fixed cost with your unit contribution margin, which is 82,500, as you can see, either A or B. Next, we need to find out the operating income if you sell these many units. If you sell these many units, 175, each unit gets you $100 contribution, which means your total contribution earned is 17.5 million. Out of this contribution, you have to deduct your fixed cost, which is 8.25 million, in order to arrive at your operating income. 8.25 million gets you 9.25. This is your operating income. So your break-even quantity is 82,500, B, and your operating income is 9.25 million. So that makes B to be the correct option. B it is. All of the following are assumptions of cost volume profit analysis except total fixed costs do not change within the volume or the point under consideration. It is one of the assumptions. It's correct. It is one of the assumptions. Total fixed costs do not change with the change in volume within the relevant range. Revenues change proportionally with volume. As you sell more, your revenues increase proportionally. Variable cost per unit change proportionally with volume. Variable cost per unit, it doesn't change. It's a wrong statement. Within the relevant range, variable cost per unit stays the same. This is incorrect. Sales mix for multi-product situations do not vary with the volume out. So A is a true assumption, B is this is incorrect. Variable cost per unit do not change, they stay the same. So that makes C to be the correct option, and C it is. AS Manufacturing plans to produce two products, product C, product F, during the next year with the following cost and revenue structures: selling price for C and F, variable cost for C and F, and expected sales mix for C and F. Okay. Total projected fixed cost for the company is $30,000. Typical exam type question. Assume that the product mix would be the same at the break-even point as at the expected level of sales of both products, means mix is going to be the same. What is the projected number of units of product C to be sold at the break-even point? Break-even point in a multi-product situation is fixed cost, which is given as 30, divided by the weighted average contribution margin. What is weighted average contribution margin? For that, you need to see the sale mix percentage. 20 and 5, 25. 20 out of 25 is C, and 5 out of 25 is F, that is 20%. Contribution for C is $2, for F is $5. So weighted average contribution margin means you are going to assign 50% or 80% weight to the contribution $2 plus, and 20% weightage assigned to contribution 5, that is related to F. And that will give you the weighted average contribution margin, 0.80 times 2 and 0.20 times 5, that gives you 2.6. So that gives you the break-even quantity, that is 11,538. Do not press C mindlessly. It's a break-even quantity. It says you need to find out the level of sales of C at the break-even. So C would be 20% of this, 80% of this. 80% is C and 20% is F. So 11,538 times 80%, that's 9230.7, that is 9231. That makes B to be the correct option. B it is. Here we go, a good one. Straight Line Theatre stages a number of summer musicals at its theatre in Northern Ohio. Preliminary planning has just begun for the upcoming season, and Starlight has developed the following estimated data. There are 3 performances: Mr. Wonderful, That's Life, All That Jazz. There are 12 performances for Mr. Wonderful, 20 for That's Life, and 12 performances for All That Jazz, with these many expected attendances per performance. This one for Mr. Wonderful, this one for each That's Life, and this one for All That Jazz. Ticket price is given for each performances with the relevant variable cost and with the fixed cost also. Fine. Here 1 represents the payment to production companies and are based on tickets sold. These are the variable cost depending upon the ticket sold. It's variable cost. And 2 here represents cost directly associated with the entire run of each production for costumes, sets, and artist fee. Alright. Starlight will also incur $565,000 of common fixed costs, operating charges, administrative, facility cost, and advertising for the entire season. So most of you would argue that this is not the relevant cost. I would say it is, because had we not incurred this cost, none of these performances would be possible. None of these performances would be possible. So this is an It's a mandatory cost. You have to incur this cost. Only these performances would be possible. You can't ignore it. It is the cost to be considered. These are the fixed costs to be considered. There are 4 types of fixed costs. These are specifically related to production, and this cost is related to all the productions that are being run for the season. Without this cost, there is no production, no performances. Tax rate is 30%. These common charges are allocated based on total attendance for each. They allocate it according to the attendances, but nonetheless, we have agreed that this cost is for the entire season. Without this cost, no performance is possible. We are going to take it as a relevant cost. All right. If Starlight schedules of musicals is held as planned, how many patrons or attendances would have to attend for the Starlight to break even during the summer season? A good bulky question with 3 different services rather than products. We need to find the break-even point. The dynamics stay the same. You just have to extract the right information and you are good to go. So break-even quantity or break-even performances would need to cover these fixed costs: $165,000, $249,000, $316,000, and lastly, don't forget this 565. Without this, no performance is possible. Next part is difficult. You have to calculate the weighted average contribution margin. For these, first we need contribution. Mr. Wonderful gives you a contribution margin of 15. Miss That's Life gives you a contribution of 14. And the contribution, all that jazz, is 20. So we have the individual contributions. What we need is the weightage. Attendances. Please do not take these as weightages. These are the attendances per performance. If there are 12 performances, you have to multiply with these. So I'm going to calculate these numbers. Then I'm going to calculate the relevant proportion. So 3,500 times 12. It's a longer question. 42,000 total attendances for Mr. Wonderful. 3,000 times 20. Total 60,000 attendees across all these 20 performances. And 4,000 times 12. 48,000 attendances. Now the next step is to calculate their proportion. 42 plus 48 plus 60, a total of 150,000 attendees or patrons. We need the proportion. 42 is what percentage of 150? It's a nice whole number, 28%. 60,000 attendees for That's Life. It's what percentage of the total? 40%. And lastly, 48 is what percentage of 150? It's 32%. We have got the weightages. We have got the individual contribution margins. What you need is the weighted average contribution margin. That is 28% of 15 plus 14%, 40% of 14, and plus 32% of 20. It gives you a weighted average contribution margin of 16.2. So adding all these, 165 plus 249 plus 316 plus 565, total fixed cost divided by the contribution margin, it gives you attendances of 79938. That gives you C to be the correct option. So no matter how big a question looks, if you have grasped the underlying dynamics, the theme of the question, it's a break-even question, and break-even means fixed cost upon the unit contribution margin. If it's a multi-product, it's going to be a weighted average one, but the dynamics stay the same. And no matter how difficult a question looks, you need to have a positive frame of mind. Read with a positive attitude, with arrogance. You will solve. Arrogance will get you there. If you get panic, if you get bogged down in the exam hall, you are dead. Arrogance will get you there. Do not be afraid of any question. Be strong. Take it head on. So that makes C to be the correct option. C it is. Next, Carson Incorporated manufactures only one product and it is preparing its budget for the next year based upon the following information. Selling price is given, variable cost is given, fixed cost is given, effective tax rate is given, everything is given. You just have to use the right formula and you'll get it. If Carson wants to achieve a net income of $1.3 million, its sale must be what? We have the formula. I will share the formula with you in our WhatsApp group. The formula that you should use to earn this 1.3 million net profit is target quantity is equal to fixed cost plus net income upon 1 minus tax rate divided by the unit contribution margin. You just have to plug in the right numbers and you're good to go. Your fixed cost is given 250. The net income that you desire to earn is 1.3 million. Remember, net income is to be divided with 1 minus tax. Doing this will convert this net income into operating income, income before tax. Please remember, net income is required, net income upon 1 minus tax. This would gross up net income and convert it into your operating income. That is income before tax. Right? So what's the tax rate? 1 minus 35%, that's the tax rate. And dividing it with the unit contribution margin, that is 100 minus 75, that's just 25. Solve the numerator first, it's $250,000. 1.3 million divided by 65%. 1 minus 35% means 65%. So that gives you 1.3 million divided by 65%. It's $2 million. $2 million and divide. So first add the numerator fully, 250 plus 2 million, get the final answer and then divide it with 25, because 6 function calculator will put you in trouble. If you just make a shortcut, it will be a problem for you. So we get a quantity of 90,000 units. If you sell this much quantity, you will be able to earn this much net income after tax. So that makes D to be the correct option, and D it is. Next. Again, a fuller question having 3 multi-products with their selling prices, variable cost, and their sales mix. What you need to earn this much operating profit. At this profit, how many units of 153 do you need to sell? Typical exam type multi-product question. Metalcraft produces 3 inexpensive socket wrenches that are popular with do-it-yourselfers, those who like to do themselves without any expert. Budgeted information for the upcoming year is as follows. We have these models: selling price, variable cost, that will help us determine or calculate the contribution. For this, the contribution is 4.5, 15 minus 8, contribution is 7, 20 minus 14, contribution is $6. Next, we need, in order to calculate the weighted average contribution margin, the percentage mix. 30, 75 and 45 gives you a total of 150. Out of this 150, 30,000 represents 20% of the total sales. This represents 50% of the total sales, and 45 represents, of course, the remaining 30% of total sales. All right. Next step is to calculate the weighted average contribution margin. And how you do that? 20% of 4.5 plus 50% of 7 plus 30% of 6. It's a total of 6.2. Weighted average contribution margin. Next step is to calculate the target quantity that not only covers your fixed cost, that is 961. If the company actual experience remains consistent with the estimated sales, if the sale mix stays the same, and firm desires to generate a total operating income. Operating income means no tax adjustment needed. Straight away you plug it right here. Operating income, fixed cost to be covered, this much is to be earned, divided by the weighted average contribution margin. Again, do not make the mistake. 961,000 plus 161,200. Get the final answer and then divide with 6.2. You get 181,000. These many units you should sell to break even. Don't click D. We need the number of units to be sold for item 153. And this represents 30% of your mix. So 30% of this gives you 54,300. So that is B. B is the right answer. Right, so B it is. All right. Robin Company wants to earn 6% return on sales after taxes. 6% return on sales after taxes. The company's effective income tax rate is 40%. Its contribution margin is 30%. The Robin has fixed cost of $240,000. The amount of sales required to earn the desired return. Apparently, a question with just 2 or 3 lines, but giving you very limited information. But if you see clearly, we require the desired target revenue. For this, we not only need to cover the fixed cost, we also need to earn certain after-tax profit. That is your net income upon 1 minus tax. This formula is time tested. It will work every time. And its contribution margin is 30%. Contribution margin ratio, CMR. You just need to plug in the right numbers and you get your answer. Target dollar is required. Target sales revenue. Fixed cost is given. Plug it in. $240,000 is the fixed cost. I want my net income to be 6% of my sales. Let's say my sales is S. I need my net income that is 6% of sales. That is 6% of sales. Of course, it has to be adjusted for tax. 1 minus tax rate upon the contribution margin ratio that is given 30%. You just have to simplify this arrangement, this arithmetic for S. You have to make S the subject of this equation. You will solve it. 30% of S means you take 30% to this side, it will be 0.3S. Now what do we have here? 240. 6% of S tax rate has been given as 40%. I can simply change this percentage right here. 1 minus 40% means straight I will write 60%. Straight away simplify this to 60% because 1 minus 40% means 60%. So what I have basically, I have 6% of sales upon 60%. 6% of sales means 0.06 S upon 0.6. So simplifying this will give me what? 0.06 upon 0.6 gives me 0.1 S. The whole of this part is simplified into 0.1 S. You just have to solve it for S. Make S the subject of the equation. It's going to be 0.3 S. 0.1 S is equal to 240. 0.3 S minus 0.1 S means 0.2 S. 0.2 S is equal to $240,000. That means S is equal to 240 upon 0.2. And you get your answer. 1.2 million. Apparently, it looked little twisted. I recommend this formula because no matter how twisted the question is, whatever is being asked, whatever is being required, you will always get the right answer using this formula. We have used it in millions of questions across many softwares. It will never let you down. Plug in the right numbers at the right places, make the required subject as the subject of the equation, simplify, and you get your right answer. So that makes D to be the correct option, and D it is. Should we do this one last question for the weekend, a bigger one, and we are just at the end of our time? Let's do this one. Bargain Press is considering publishing a new textbook. The publisher has developed the following cost data related to the production run of 6,000 books. The minimum possible production run. We can't print less than these. Bargain Press will sell the textbook for $45 per copy. That's the selling price per unit. We have been given different costs. Development costs, review, class testing, editing, $35,000. Setup cost, depreciation, fixed, journal and administrative, fixed, miscellaneous fixed costs. All these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the fixed costs. Printing and binding varies with the level of books, variable. Sales staff commission depends upon the number of units sold, variable. Bookstore commission, variable. Author's royalty, variable. Even this variable isn't mentioned. We know these are variable by just the title of the expense. So the total cost at a production level 6,000 copies is 204,620. What do we need? How many textbooks must bargain press sell in order to generate operating earning of 20% on sales. Whatever the requirement, as long as you have identified the question to be from the CVP analysis, you know what to do. You know what to do. And you know what to do. Simply, we need to earn this much earning. We need the target quantity. Target quantity is equal to fixed cost plus desired operating profit, earning before interest and tax, or operating profit, divided by the unit contribution margin. Same formula will help you. Since we need the operating income, I've just put EBT, no tax given. Okay. Fixed cost that I need to cover is this: 35,000, 18,500, 9,320, 7,500 and 4,500. It's a total of 74,720. Okay. EBIT is given in a little unorthodox way. Operating income has to be 20% on sales. What's your sales? You are going to sell S books or Q books, for example. Each book is to be sold at 45. It means the total sales revenue would be 45Q. Q being the number of books sold and 45 is the selling price. So the revenue is 45Q. You want your operating profit to be 20% on sales. That is 20% of 45Q. 45Q is 20%. That is 9Q. So your profit is 9 times the quantity sold. 20% of 45Q. So you just plug it in, 9Q. What is the unit contribution margin? Total quantity to be sold is Q. Now, for unit contribution margin, we know the formula. Unit contribution margin is equal to unit selling price minus unit variable cost. Unit selling price is given as 45. Unit variable cost can be calculated by adding all these costs and dividing by 6,000 books. Simple as that. So 30,000 plus 5,400 plus 67,500 plus 27,000 gives you a total of 129,900. That's the total variable cost divided by the number of books. It's 21.65. That's your variable cost, 21.65. So 45 less 21.65 gives you your unit contribution margin, and that's all. The question is almost done. 23.35 times Q gives you 23.35 Q is equal to 74720 plus 9Q. Make Q the subject of the equation. That is 23.35 Q minus 9Q is equal to 74720. Finally, what you have is 14.35 Q is equal to 74720. That means Q is equal to 74720. 74720 divided by 14.35. It gives you 5206 point something, 5206.9 books, which means approximately rounded off to 5207. So no matter how difficult a question looks, how frightening does it look, never lose your arrogance, never lose your temperament. Okay, next question number 11. Zipper company invested $300,000 in a new machine to produce cones for textile industries. Zipper variable cost are 30% of the selling price and its fixed costs are $600,000. Zipper has an effective income tax rate of 40%. The amount of sales required to earn an 8% after tax return on its investment. We have the formula. Just write down the formula and you will get the right answer. The formula we use is target revenue is equal to fixed cost plus net income we want divided by 1 minus tax rate upon the contribution margin ratio. This formula will never fail you. Plug in the right numbers at the right places, you'll get your answer. Fixed cost is $600,000. I need my return 8% after tax return on investment. What is my investment? My investment is $300,000 and I want my return to be 8% of $300,000, that is $24,000. I want my net income to be 8%. Net income is after tax income. 8% of my investment, that is 24,000, divided by 1 minus tax rate, that is of course 40%, upon the contribution margin ratio. We don't seem to have contribution margin ratio. Remember, gentlemen, if you have been given the variable cost 30%, your contribution margin ratio would be 70%. If your variable cost percentage is 45%, your contribution margin ratio would be 55%. In other words, the variable cost percentage and contribution margin ratio, their sum is always 100%. Small tip, must remember. So contribution margin ratio is 0.70. I need the target revenue. I just need to simplify the numerator. 24,000 divided by 0.6 plus 600,000, that gives me a total of 640. 640 divided by 0.7 gives me 914,286. That is the target sales revenue. If we achieve this sales revenue, then after paying off all the variable and fixed costs, the company would be able to earn this much net income after taxes. So that makes B to be the correct option, and B it is. Break-even quantity is defined as the volume of output at which the revenues are equal to what? Revenues are equal to total cost. Total revenue, when we define break-even, it means your total revenue is equal to total cost. Do not confuse it with the profit maximizing output. For profit maximizing output, your marginal revenue must be equal to marginal cost. That's a totally different ballgame altogether. For break-even, the total revenue must be equal to total cost. But for profit maximizing output, MR is equal to MC. They are two different things. So right now it's B. B it is. Next. Eagle Brand Incorporated produces two products. Data regarding these products are presented below. We have product X, product Y. Product X sells for 100, Y sells for 130. These are their variable costs, and this is the raw material consumed on each item, 4 pounds and 10 pounds. Eagle Brand has 1,000 pounds of raw materials. That's a limiting factor or the constraint, which can be used to produce product X or Y or both. Which of the alternative below should Eagle Brand accept in order to maximize contribution margin? Now, first of all, in limiting factor analysis, the first step we should do is to calculate the contribution per constraint, contribution per limiting factor. How do we do that? This is your contribution, $20. This is your contribution, $30. In order to earn $20 of contribution, you have to spend 4 pounds of your constraint factor, which means your $5 per pound is the contribution for each pound of constraint material. For this one, you earn $30 contribution by consuming 10 pounds of raw material. 30 by 10, that gives you $3. Now, it's very simple now. If I have 1 pound of limiting factor, spending it on product X gets me $5 of contribution. Spending the same 1 pound on product Y gets me just $3 of contribution. So a rational decision maker will surely select X. Since there is no demand constraint in the market, I will consume the whole of this 1,000 pounds entirely in producing X. So how many X can I produce using these 1,000 pounds? This 1,000 pounds that is available, 4 pounds are needed for each X. 1,000 by 4, it means I can produce 250 X's. So I will produce 250 units of X, and I will be able to earn the highest contribution possible in the given situation. So that makes B to be the correct option. B it is. Moving on. A detergent company sells large containers of industrial cleaners at a selling price of 12. Each container of cleaner requires 4.5 of direct material, 2.5 of direct labor, and $1 of variable overheads. Okay. The company has total fixed cost of $2 million and an income tax rate of 40%. The management has a set goal to achieve a targeted after-tax net income of $2.4 million What amount of dollar sales must the company achieve in order to meet the goal? Simple application of the formula will get you the right answer. The target revenue, dollar, is equal to fixed cost plus net income upon 1 minus tax rate divided by, this time we need the contribution margin ratio because we need the sales dollar. How do you find contribution margin ratio? This is your selling price. From this deduct material, labor and variable overheads. So it's going to be 12 minus 4.5 minus 2.5 minus 1. It gives you $4. So $4 contribution, it is what percentage of your selling price? This is what you call CMR. This is called CMR and it's 0.3333. Okay, we have got CMR contribution margin ratio 33.33%, or simply this way. Fixed cost is $2 million. Plus net income we want to earn, it is 2.4 million, and 2.4 million divided by 1 minus tax rate. Tax rate is 40%, so 1 minus 40% is 60%. So I'm going to simplify the numerator first. 2.4 million divided by 0.60 plus 2 million gives me a total of 6 million. I need to earn 6 million through this contribution margin to cover the fixed cost and to earn this much profit. Divided by 0.33 should give me the target revenue. Divided by 0.333333 and it'll give me a very accurate answer, $18 million. This should be my revenue in order to earn 2.4 million net income after taxes. So that makes B to be the correct option. B it is. Next, projected sales for a tent manufacturer are 510,000. It's a good question involving margin of safety. So your projected sales is $510,000. Each tent sells for $850, which means how many units you are planning to sell? 510,000 is the expected revenue. Each tent sells for $850. It means you are planning to sell 600 tents. Right? That's the quantity you plan to sell. Further, it says if this is the selling price, this is the variable cost. It has give us the unit contribution margin. 850 less 350. It's simply $500. That is your unit contribution margin. What do we need? The tent manufacturer total fixed cost is $145,000. The tent manufacturer's margin of safety. Margin of safety is the difference between your budgeted sales in units, because you have the result in units, budgeted sales quantity minus the break-even sales quantity, and you get the margin of safety. So we have the budgeted quantity, we want to sell 600 tents. But what is the break-even quantity? For that we have this working. Break-even quantity is equal to the fixed cost that we have $145,000 divided by the unit contribution margin we just calculated 500. So 145,000 upon 500 gives you 290. This is your break-even quantity. So this is the planned sales quantity, this is the break-even quantity. The difference between these gives you a cushion. And this cushion, this comfort, this buffer is called the margin of safety. It is 310. In other words, your sales margin of safety, what is the idea behind it? Margin of safety is the comfort zone that protects you against losses. Your sales can fall by 310 units before it starts hitting you hard, before you start incurring losses. Like for example, this is the region of loss and you are standing right here. This cushion, this comfort is for 310 units. Your sale, if falls more than 310 units, then you will start incurring losses. So this is the buffer you have. It's a way to measure risk also. The bigger the margin of safety, the more comfortable the business position is in. The thin the margin of safety, slight swing in sales, you are dead. 310 is the right answer, so that makes A to be the correct option. A it is. For the year just ended, Silverstone company's sales revenue was 450. Silverstone's fixed cost were 120 and its variable cost amounted to rupees $270,000. For the current year, sales are forecasted to be $500,000. If the fixed costs do not change, Silverstone's profits this year would be. We do not have units. How do we go about doing a question like this? We don't have units. So far we have considered units one way or the other. What is the right way to do it? The right way to do it is to calculate the contribution margin ratio, or to calculate contribution margin percentage and apply that straight to the sales revenue. What you will do, if this is the sales revenue and if this is the variable cost, difference between these two will give you the contribution earned, that is 180. This will help me calculate the contribution margin ratio. Contribution margin ratio can be calculated on per unit basis. It can also be calculated in total, like contribution margin ratio can be unit contribution margin upon unit selling price, or total contribution divided by total sales revenue. The percentage on per unit or total would stay the same. So 180 upon 450, that gives you 40%. It means contribution margin is 40%. Whatever you sell, 40% of that is your contribution. If you are planning to sell $500,000 worth of goods, 40% of this would be your contribution. So $500,000 times 40%, it means your contribution is going to be $200,000. We don't need contribution, we need profit. To calculate profit, you have to deduct your fixed cost from your contribution, and then it will give you the profit you are going to earn, $80,000. So that makes B to be the correct option. So question like this, you need to calculate the contribution margin ratio, apply this ratio to the budgeted sales. It will give you the budgeted contribution margin or budgeted total contribution. From this, deduct the fixed cost, and there you go. You get your operating profit. So 80,000 B it is. 17th, Breeze company has a contribution margin of $4,000. Contribution margin, fixed cost 1,000. Okay. If the total contribution margin increases by 1,000, operating profit would, apparently a difficult question, but it's a very easy question. Once your fixed costs are covered, right? You're already earning a positive contribution, fixed cost is already covered. Any additional contribution will simply increase your profit by the same amount. If your contribution increases by 1,000, your profit goes up by 1,000. If your contribution increases by 2,000, your profit goes up by 2,000. It means whatever the change in contribution is, your profit will increase by the same amount as long as your fixed cost is covered. Fixed cost is already covered, as you can see. $4,000 contribution, $1,000 fixed cost, right? So your profit right now is $3,000. If your contribution goes up by 1,000, your profit will increase by the same amount. So your profit would increase by $1,000. So that makes C to be the correct option. Okay. Wilkinson company sells its single product for $30 selling price. The contribution margin ratio is 45%. This will help us to calculate the unit contribution margin, which can be very helpful. $30 times 45%, that is 13.5. 13.5 is your unit contribution margin. Contribution margin ratio is given 45%. Okay. Wickens fixed cost is $10,000. If 3,000 units are sold in the current month, what would be the income? How much contribution do we get by selling one unit? 13.5. If we are planning to sell 3,000 units, what would be the contribution expected? 3,000 times 13.5. It gives you 40,500. That's the contribution you will earn, not the profit. We need the income. So for the purpose of calculating income, deduct the fixed cost from your total contribution and simply you get your operating income. 30,500. Straightforward question. A, it is. Now, good one, a bigger one. For a question that looks longer than the usual, it is always recommended that you should read the requirement. That will narrow down your scope of your effort. Servine has 40,000 productive machine hours available. What is the maximum total contribution that Servine can generate in the coming year? We have been given the annual unit capacity and the annual demand. Whatever you can produce, the whole of it can be sold. So overproduction won't help. Unlike the previous question, we just can't spend the whole of these machine hours on just one unit because the demand is constrained. So we may have to select a combination of these two to maximize our contribution. So how we go about? A sells for 100. This is for 80. We have got the variable manufacturing cost, fixed manufacturing, variable selling admin, fixed other admin, and finally we have the operating profits, and then finally machine hours. The first step that we did previously, we'll do the same thing. We will first calculate the contribution per constraint. Contribution is calculated by deducting the variable costs from your selling price. So 100 less 53 less 10 gives you 37. For this, 50 less 45 less 11, 80 less 45 less 11, 24. We can't base our decision on just unit contribution. We have to take in account the constraint also. 37 upon 2 gives you 18.5 per machine hour. And 24 divided by 1.5 gives you $16 per machine hour. Per machine hour, right? Now if I have one machine hour available, product A gets me $18.5, product B gets me $16. So definitely my priority would be product A. Second priority would be product B, right? So I will allocate maximum hours I can on product A. How many hours can I allocate? I cannot produce more than 10. Each item takes 2 unit hours, so it means I can allocate my 20,000 hours on product A. Remaining 20,000 hours will be allocated on product B. These 20,000 hours, how many units can it generate for product B? Each unit B or item B takes 1.5 hours. If I have 20,000 available hours, how many units can I produce? 20,000 divided by 1.5. I can produce a maximum of 13,333 out of the available hours. I will produce 10,000 units fully by consuming 20,000 hours. Remaining 20,000 hours will be spent on B. These 20,000 hours will get you 13,333 units of B, right? This is the maximum you can produce of A and B to maximize your contribution in total. Now, product A gets me a contribution of 37. Product B gets me a contribution of 24 per unit. Multiply 10 with this plus 1333 with this. You get the total contribution that you can earn in maximum. 10,000 multiplied by 37 plus 13,333 multiplied by 24. The total contribution, the maximum contribution you can earn is 689,992, and that perfectly matches with your option B, correct? B is the right answer. Next, Specialty Cakes Incorporated produces 2 types of cakes, 2 pounds round cake and 3 pounds heart-shaped cake. Total fixed costs are $94,000. Variable costs and sales data for the 2 types of cakes are presented below. Selling price for both, variable cost for both, and current sales volume for both. What we need, if the product sales mix were to change to 3 heart-shaped cakes for each round cake, the break-even volume for each of these products would be. Now, everything else being the same, they are going to change the composition or the sales mix from 10-15 to 3 heart-shaped for each round cake. 1-3. 1-3 makes 25% weightage for this one and 75% weightage for this one. Right? We have got the sales mix percentage. The next step is to calculate the contribution. 12 minus 8, $4. 20 minus 15, $5. We will calculate the weighted average unit contribution margin to calculate the break-even quantity. 25% of 4 plus 75% of 5. This will give me the weighted average unit contribution margin. 25% of 4 plus 75% of 5. It gives me total of 4.75. This is the weighted average unit contribution margin. Next step is to calculate the break-even quantity by dividing the fixed cost with your weighted average unit contribution margin. 94,000 divided with the answer, it's 19,789. 19,789. This is the total quantity of round and heart-shaped cakes you need to sell to break even. The next step is to find the split up. Out of these, 25% represents round and 75% represent heart shape. So 0.25 gives you 4947, correct, C, and the remaining is 14,842. Anjum got it right, 14,842. So these are the quantities at the break even. That makes C to be the correct option. C it is. Again, a big one, a biggie, I must say. It's a biggie. And it's apparently a very long and challenging question, but the step to solve this is just a small step. Just need to read the information carefully. What is the requirement? What would be the effect on the total contribution margin if this change was implemented? So this last line tells us that there's going to be some change, and how this change is going to affect our profitability, our contribution margin. We have two products, crates and boxes. They sell for 20 and 30. Their related variable cost, material, labor, variable overhead, variable selling is given. This will help us calculate the contributions. This less this. So 20 less 5 less 8 less 3 less 1 gives you a contribution of $3. For boxes, 30 less 5 less 10 less 5 less 2 gives you 8. Okay, let's see what exactly is needed. Production of crates and boxes involves a joint process and use of the same facilities. Both these products are made in the same process. The total fixed overhead cost is $2 million and the total fixed selling and admin related cost is $840. Production and sales are scheduled for 500,000 units of crates and 700,000 units of boxes. Okay. Lazar maintains no direct materials, work in process or finished goods inventory. It means no inventory of any kind, not for raw material or work in process or nor for finished goods. Whatever is produced is sold. That's one of the assumptions of break-even analysis. Whatever you produce is sold. Lazar can reduce direct material cost for crates by 50%. This cost can be reduced by 50% with no change in direct labor cost. Direct labor cost would stay the same. However, it would increase machine hours production time by 1/2 hours per unit. Two things. At one end, our material cost is reducing by 50%. On the other hand, our production time is going to go up by 1.5 hours. It means your total time taken would be 3.5 hours now. Right? For crates, variable overhead costs are allocated based upon machine hour. Now, this is the twisting point. For crates, variable overhead costs, this one, they are allocated based upon machine hours. First of all, let us find out the variable overhead absorption rate. What is the variable overhead absorption rate? Crates require 2 machine hours, right? And it takes in $3 of variable overhead. 2 hours require $3 of variable overhead. If I need to calculate the variable overhead rate, it is simply the variable overhead charged divided by the time taken. It gives me the variable overhead rate is $1.5 per labor hour or machine hour. It's a machine hour based. Per machine hour. Per machine hour. Okay. This is the variable overhead rate. What is the idea? The manufacturing cost is going to go down by 50% for material. But at the same time, it will take 1.5 hours extra, and each hour for variable overhead rate is charged at the rate of 1.5. No other cost is going to change, neither labor nor variable selling. Just this cost is going to change. what would be the effect on the total contribution margin if this change was implemented? There is a benefit from one side that our material cost is going to go down by 50%. So the benefit of this is a reduction in cost of 2.5. But on the other side, it will require an additional 1.5 hours of machine, and this is charged at the rate of $1.5 per machine hour. Extra variable incurred would be 1.5 times 1.5 is 2.25. So the marginal cost in this case, or additional cost, is 2.25. If you see the difference, the benefit that you drive is 0.25 for each unit. This is the benefit you drive for each unit. How many units are you expected to sell for crates? 500,000. So multiply 0.25 with 500,000. It means the extra income you can generate by these two changes would be $125,000. So the twist to remember was the benefit was 2.5. Extra cost was 1.5 hours extra. Each hour charged at the rate of 1.5. It will be 2.25. Benefit minus cost. Net benefit 0.25 per crate. How many crates are we expecting to produce? 500,000. Multiply this and you get the total benefit of 125. That makes A to be the correct option, and A it is. I guess there is one more question related to the same information. We can use the same knowledge here, but it won't be of any help. Will it be? We have to do this. Just forget about it. We'll do it again. So we got the answer 125. A is the right answer. Next question. The ticker company sells two products. Product A. Product A provides a contribution margin of 3 per unit, and product B provides a contribution margin of 4 per unit. Let us write this down. We have two products, product A, product B. Product A provides contribution margin of 3, 4. Unit contribution margin. It's an interesting question, requires focus. If the ticker sales mix shifts towards product A, right now this is what we sell. What if we start selling A more and B less? What will happen? If the ticker sales mix shifts towards product A, which of the following statement is correct? The total number of units necessary to break even will decrease. Wrong. Now you need to sell more units to break even. Why? Because now you are selling an item that gets you less contribution than the previous one, because your weightage is shifting towards item A. Item A gives you less contribution per unit, so your break-even quantity would increase, not decrease. Wrong. B. The overall contribution margin ratio will increase. No. Contribution margin ratio will decrease because you are selling that item in a larger proportion that gives you less unit contribution margin. This is wrong as well. Unit contribution margin or weighted average unit contribution margin will fall. Next. Operating income will decrease if the total number of units sold remain constant. Yes. First you used to sell, let's say, 20,000 units of A and B combined. Now you sell more A, less B, but the total number of units stay the same. Number of units are the same, but now you have sold more A's than B's, resultantly less contribution in total, hence less profit overall. Operating income will decrease if the total number of the units sold remain constant. Correct answer. Ashar, correct answer. C is the right answer. Look no further, C it is. Next, same question, but in the last line he has made some changes. Capacity to produce 2 million in any combination. 500, 700 means the utilization is 1.2 million units of crates and trunks combined. Due to plant renovation, laser industries will be limited to 1 million machine hours. What is the maximum amount of contribution margin laser can generate during the renovation period? There is no constraint as such. This is the scheduled production. Let us see what is the contribution margin per constraint. Contribution for crates is 20 less 5 less 8 less 3 and less 1. It's $3. Contribution for trunks is 30 less 5 less 10 less 5 less 2. It's $8. Next step is contribution per constraint. $3 is earned by spending 2 machine hours. $8 are earned by spending 4 machine hours. It will be 1.5. And this is going to be $2. Of course, it makes sense that we should sell more of the trunks because they generate a higher income for us, right? So due to plant renovation, Leather Industries will limit it to 1 million machine hours. What is the maximum amount of contribution margin Leather can generate during the renovation period? All right, now let's say if since it is more profitable for us to sell trunks, if we want to produce 700 trunks, that is our expected production and sales. Is it possible? 700 trunks, each one requiring 4. We need 2.8 million machine hours. This is not available, not possible. Which means we have to produce trunks out of this much time available. How many can we produce? 1 million machine hours are available. Each trunk takes 4 hours. It means the production that we can maintain is just 250,000 trunks. Each trunk generating $8 of contribution. So the maximum contribution you can generate is 250 multiplied by 8. That gives you 2 million. Correct, miss, you're right. B is the right answer. This is what you can generate. What we have done, first we calculated contribution per constraint. That showed us trunk is a better option. We can produce these many, but it will require 2.8 million machine hour. We have just 1 million machine hours. Out of these, we can produce 1 million by 4, 250,000 trunks. Each trunk generates $8 of contribution. 250 will generate a total of 2 million. So that makes B to be the correct option. Next. Good one. A company sells 2 products with the following result. It's a good one. This question is good. Different than others. More or less questions are the same, but this one is different. Here you will have to calculate the weighted average contribution margin ratio. Good question. A company sells 2 products with the following results for the year just ended. We have been given the sales for 2 products, 12 million, 3 million, variable cost 4.8 million, 1.5 million, fixed cost this and this. Assuming the product mix and the sales mix remains the same. The company's break-even point in sales dollar. Break-even point in sales dollar. For that, we need the fixed cost, which we have, 5.4 million plus $400,000 divided by the contribution margin ratio. But this time it's different. It's a weighted average contribution margin ratio. How do we calculate that? First of all, calculate the contribution margins for them separately. Contribution margin ratios individually for product 1 and 2. How do we do that? 12 million less 4.8 million. The contribution is 7.2 million. This 7.2 million is what percentage of the sales price? 60%. So the contribution margin ratio for product 1 is 60%. And for this one, 3 million less 1.5 million. 1.5 million. 1.5 million is what percentage of 3? 50%. So these are the contribution margin ratios. Next step is to calculate the weightages. How do we calculate the weightages? The total sales of 1 and 2 combined sales mix is 12 and 3, 15 million. 12 million and 3 million, 15 million. 12 million is what percentage of 15? 12 by 15, 80%. And this will be clearly 20%. Now the next is to calculate the weighted average contribution margin ratio. How do we calculate? 60% of 80% plus 50% of 20%. This is how we calculate the weighted average contribution margin ratio. First we calculated their individual contribution margins. Then we use sales to calculate the sales mix percentage 80 and 20. 60% is 80% plus 50% is 20%. So 0.6 times 0.8 plus 0.5 times 0.2 gives you 0.58. So 5.4 million plus 400,000 divided by 0.58 gives you a nice number, $10 million. This is the break-even revenue. B. Correct option? B it is. Sunk costs are not relevant in the decision-making process because sunk costs are sunk because they have already been paid. Fixed costs may be paid repeatedly, recursively, but not the sunk costs are the one that have already been paid. Remember, sometimes sunk costs are the costs that have already been paid or the cost which you have irrevocably committed to pay under a contract, which you can't avoid. Sunk cost, the cost that has already been paid, historical cost, the cost that already been incurred. B. A company plans to add new product that would affect its indirect labor cost in two ways. First, the production manager from an existing product would serve as a manager of the new product. It's a very interesting question requiring some attention, gentlemen, ladies, please. A company plans to add, we have already agreed, and those of you who don't know, remember the relevant cost is the cost that is FDA. Cost that is from the future, cost on revenue that differ, and cost or revenue that are avoidable. Any cost or revenue that is from the future, any cost or revenue that is differing between the options, any cost or revenue that is avoidable. It is relevant for the decision making, hence must be considered. Okay. So company plans to add a new product that would affect its indirect labor cost in two ways. First, the production manager from an existing product would serve as a manager of the new product. He was already working in some position and he has been moved for this new product. Did we pay any extra amount? Did we save anything? No. There's no, apparently till now. Her current assistant manager would be promoted and assume her previous position. Since she has been moved to the new product, she has made a vacancy. Now that vacancy will be filled by her subordinate as per the given information. Second, the existing maintenance staff would provide facility and machine maintenance that would require 30 hours of labor each month, but no increase in their total weekly hours worked. So this is the second type of workers we need, and since they will be paid the same amount of wage, same hours worked, no extra cost, no cost that is differing is being incurred. The only cost we have come to know is that the production manager has been moved to the new product. The vacancy left by her will be filled by her subordinate, and of course her salary would go up also. That is the relevant cost so far. So the company's production managers earn 60 annually. So the new production manager she has brought to your new product, she was earning 60 before, she will earn 60 now. There is no change. Assistant production managers are paid 50. Since the previous assistant production manager in the previous department, she has been promoted, she will get 50 to 60, 10 extra. This 10 extra has been paid because of our decision to start this new product. This 10,000 extra being paid elsewhere in the company is because of our decision. This $10,000 is the relevant cost. Otherwise, this production manager was already getting 60, she will get 60, no change. But her assistant will be getting 10 extra because of our decision, that is relevant cost. And maintenance employees earn $20 per hour, and they will keep on getting the same amount, no change. No additional hiring is planned. The annual relevant indirect labor cost for adding the new product would be straight 10,000. The increment given to her assistant from 50 to 60, this is the only relevant cost. Rest of the employees will keep on receiving what they were. So that makes C to be the correct option. C it is. Johnson waits 2 hours in line to buy a ticket to an NCAA Final Four tournament. The opportunity cost of buying the 200 tickets is, opportunity cost means what you have sacrificed, what you have given up. What you have given up. Johnson's best alternative use of $200. This is half of the story. Johnson has spent 2 hours standing in line. He spent $200. So there are two limited resource utilization he has done. These two resources could have been spent somewhere else. Johnson's best alternative use of the 2 hours, again it's half of the story. The value of the $200 to the ticket, this is again half of the story. Johnson's best alternative use of both $200, the limited resource, and 2 hours spent. What he could have done with these 2 limited resources, this is what you call the opportunity cost, right? So when you have a limited resource, you use it in one way and not the other. What you sacrifice is considered the opportunity cost of the decision, the benefit foregone. So that makes D to be the correct option. D it is. In management decision-making process, the cost measurement of the benefit sacrificed due to selecting an alternative use of resource is most often referred to as opportunity cost. We've just seen C. In order to avoid pitfall in relevant cost analysis, management should focus on what? Variable cost items that differ. When I say FDA, cost revenue related to future, cost revenue that differs between the option, and cost revenue that are avoidable, I didn't say variable or fixed. Relevant cost can be fixed, relevant cost can be variable. Relevant cost can be one time or it can be repetitive, right? So not just variable cost, not just long-term fixed cost, anticipated fixed costs and variable cost makes sense, but what about revenue? Relevant cost analysis considers anticipated revenue, costs that differ for each alternative. Relevant costs and revenues are the ones that differ, they are from the future and they are avoidable. So amongst these, D is the most appropriate one. D is the better option. In a joint manufacturing process where we produce multiple products in a joint process, joint costs incurred prior to a decision as to whether to process the products further or not. Like we have a production process where items are processed simultaneously through a joint process. A point comes when the items are split into their components, item 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? The cost incurred to this point is called the joint cost. Once items are separated, any extra cost incurred on them is called the separable cost. The question is, should we incur any extra cost? Involves a margin analysis. What is the benefit of further processing? What is the cost of further processing? We compare these two. If the marginal benefit of further processing is more than marginal cost, go ahead, process it further. If the marginal cost is more than the marginal benefit, don't. Even if the marginal benefit is equal to marginal cost, even then don't, unless you have some future expected benefit from this decision, right? So that's the point of acceptance, and these two are for the point of rejection. So in joint manufacturing process, joint costs incurred prior to a decision as to whether the process product further or not should be viewed as the costs that have already been incurred are gone. They are the sunk cost. Joint costs that have already been incurred before the split off point, they are gone. They are sunk cost. They do not affect our decision. The cost has already been paid. So that makes A to be the correct option. Next. Jack Blaze wants to rent store space in a new shopping mall. This question looks frightening at first, but as I said, you need to hold your horses. You just need to keep your calm. Do not get panicked. Any frightening will simply put you in trouble. Be arrogant, be confident, be brave when you're doing the questions. 50% of the battle can be won by just staying strong. Professional qualifications and certifications require strong nerves. So a question like this will first frighten you. Just go through it, read it casually, and you will get the right answer. Sometimes questions look frightening, but they have very little efforts needed. Jack Blaze wants to rent store space in a new shopping mall for the 3-month holiday shopping season. Blaze believes that he has a new product available which has the potential for good sales. The product can be obtained on consignment at the cost of $20 per unit, and he expects to sell the item for $100 per unit. It means his revenue is $100 per unit, cost is $20, he earns $80 contribution. Due to other business ventures, Blaze's risk tolerance is low. This is a key point. His risk tolerance is low. He recognizes that as the product is entirely new, there is an element of risk. The mall management has offered Blaze 3 rental options. The first is fixed fee of $8,000 per month. Second is a fixed fee of $39,990 per month plus 10% of Blaze revenue. And third option is 30% of the revenue. 3 rental options. One is entirely fixed, one is partly fixed, partly variable, and the last one is totally variable. Irrespective of what the question is all about, remember there are 2 types of leverages. One is called financial leverage, other is called operating leverage. Leverage is risk. Leverage, whether it's financial in the form of interest or whether it is operating in the form of fixed cost. Fixed cost is risk. Like these days, the businesses that are facing trouble, these are the businesses that had fixed cost, fixed operating cost and fixed interest payment they had to make. They are in trouble. Fixed cost, fixed interest payments increase the business risk. If you can remove the element of fixedness from your operations, from your financial structure, your risk is reduced. Of course, the returns would be reduced as well. So since this person is risk averse, he has low risk tolerance, out of these, the first option is the riskiest, fixed fee. Whenever there is fixedness, that increases risk. Second option is partly risky, but the last option, if you earn, only then you pay rent. If you don't earn, you don't pay rent. See? So this one is the least risky. 30% of Blaze revenue. If you earn, only then you pay interest. If your revenue is 0, you pay nothing. Right? So that makes sense. Choose the third option no matter what Blaze expects the revenue to be, because he would be the safest in this side. He will only pay rent when he earns. If he doesn't earn, maafi rent. So that makes D to be the best option. And D it is. Profits that are lost by moving an input from one use to another are referred to as what? Like you people are doing CMA, you could have done CPA instead, right? So what you have sacrificed is the opportunity cost of your decision, the benefit foregone. The profit that are lost by moving an input from one use to another is referred to as an opportunity cost. Out of cost, pocket cost is the cost that you pay in cash. It's also called the outlay cost. It results in cash outflow. Replacement cost is the cost incurred in replacing an asset. Cannibalization charges, these are used in performance evaluation of your product, like for example Lux shampoo and Dove. Both of these are produced by Unilever. So when we evaluate their performances, we also consider a certain charge. Dove has caused some of the Lux sales to fall. Dove and Lux both relate to Unilever. Cannibalization is a term used when a human being eats another human being. In an organizational context, when one of the firm's product affects another product, the same firm, because they have the same intended use, this is called cannibalization. So in marketing, if Dove replaces some of the Lux's sale, so we can say Dove has cannibalized some of the sales in Lux. That's of course not the agenda for today. It's an opportunity cost that makes D to be the correct option, and D it is. All right, here we go. This is a good one to close the deal. Refrigerator company manufactures ice creams for installation in refrigerators. The cost per unit is 20,000 units for ice makers are as follows. If you produce 20,000 units, this is what you pay in material per unit, this is what you pay for labor per unit, this is the variable overhead per unit, and fixed cost per unit is 10. Agree. Cool Compartment, another company, has offered to sell 20,000 ice makers. We make ice makers ourselves, and this is our unit cost, 34. Cool Compartment has offered us 20,000 ice cream makers for $28 per unit. Now the question is, when we produce it costs us 34. When this company is offering us the same product, it's only for $28 per unit. What should we do? Don't compare these two. Read the information carefully. If refrigerator accepts cooling compartment, it is make versus buy. As I said, every decision you make, decisions are made at margins, marginal benefit versus marginal cost. Right? Cool compartment has offered you $28 per unit for 20,000. 28 multiplied by 20,000. This is what they are expecting, 560. This is our marginal cost. If we decide to purchase from cool compartments, we will be saving on our material cost. Our material cost is saved. This is our benefit. Our labor cost is saved. This is our benefit. Our variable cost is saved. This is our benefit. It further says, if refrigerator accepts cool compartments offer, the plant would be idled and fixed overhead amounting to $6 per unit could be eliminated. FDA. The cost that is avoidable is relevant. Out of this $10, $4 is unavoidable. Reject that. It's irrelevant. But out of this $10, $6 will be eliminated. It means it will be saved. So how much are we saving per unit? $7 worth of material, $12 worth of labor, $5 worth of overheads, and $6 worth of fixed overheads. So it's 7 plus 12 plus 5 plus 6. It means our relevant costs were $30. This is what we used to spend on each item. On 20,000 units, our cost was $600,000. So if you have to decide, this is the cost you pay. Stopping production will benefit you $600,000. But buying it from an external service provider or external manufacturer, it will cost you $560. So the decision is to go for cool compartments offer. You will save money. But that was not the requirement in the question. The question said the total relevant cost associated with manufacturing of ice cream maker. If you manufacture ice cream yourself, what is the cost you are incurring? The cost you are incurring is material, labor, variable overhead, and $6 of fixed overhead. This is the cost you are incurring. That's the answer. We got it. But if you have to make a decision that should we make this ice compartment ourselves, or should we get it ready-made from cool compartments, you can see the cost of manufacturing, the relevant cost of manufacturing is $600,000. And the relevant cost of purchasing is $560. So the decision, if required, we go for outside sale, outsourcing. We will buy this from external service provider. So that makes C to be the correct option. See, it is. Last question for today. The last one. It's not difficult. Looks difficult, but it is not. Rank the three alternatives in order of net profit from the highest net profit to lowest. What it is, let's see. Adverts Products has just developed a new product with the manufacturing cost of 30. The marketing director has identified 3 marketing approaches for this new product. Decision analysis. Which option out of these is good for us? This is the manufacturing cost. In approach X, we can set a selling price 36 and have the firm's sales staff sell the product at 10% commission with no advertisement program. If this is the selling price we set, this is the manufacturing cost. We pay 10% commission. By doing this, we will be able to sell 10,000 units. What is the net benefit? Let's see. 36 is the selling price. $30 is the variable cost. We pay 10% of the selling price, our commission, that is 3.6. What is the net we save? 36 less 30 less 3.6. We save 2.4. This 2.4 multiplied with 10,000 units gets at a total of $24,000. Okay. What about the next one? Set a selling price of 38. Okay. Have the firm's sales staff sell the product at 10% commission. 10% of 38 is 3.8. And back them up with 30,000 advertisement programs. We'll do it later. Estimated annual sales will be 12,000. Let us see how much money do we make out of this. 38. Don't forget to deduct your manufacturing cost also, less 30. 38 less manufacturing cost, less sales commission gets you 4.2 multiplied by 12,000 units. It gets you 50,400, but out of this we must also pay 30,000 of advertisement cost. So the net saving in this case is going to be 20,400. 38 is the selling price, 30 manufacturing cost, 3.8 commission, times 12,000 gives you 5,400. From this we must pay this advertisement cost. Net is this. Last option. Rely on wholesalers to handle the product. Advert would sell the new product to the wholesaler is at 32, no commission, nothing else. 30 less the difference is 2. 2 multiplied by 14,000, you generate $28,000 of profit. So out of these, the best one is Z with the highest profit from highest to the lowest. After that we have X, and then we have Y. So ZXY, so that makes C to be the correct option. C it is.